What's up, y'all? It's Ash, and this is that long time coming video where I talk about throttle control. All right, are you tired of trying to fly your drone and it comes around, flying like this, and you end up flying like a dumbass and you don't know how to keep the drone still? Well, I've got the tip for you. All right, and this really, I think, only applies to tiny whoops. So this is the tip. Now, Joshua Bardwell, he's always talking about how the best way to fly, if you're a good pilot, typically, hypothetically, I mean, speaking, is with a linear throttle response rate. And I just disagree, all right? And it's not really the best way, okay? Now, I do understand hypothetically what he's saying.
Because the Throttle Expo giving me resolution in the sort of hover part of the throttle curve, it cost me resolution in the I'm trying to go through a turn smoothly part of the throttle curve.
For the sake of flying tiny whoops, and for many, many individuals, they will come to find out that linear throttle is going to be the #1 reason for doing this while you fly. So I'm going to talk about the difference. Okay, so let's fly with linear first and see how that is. We're going to take the I'll take the 65 millimeter. Oh shit, I'll take the 65 millimeter. Bam, so we got that plugged in. All right, there we go. We've got a completely linear response curve. Okay, it was at 0.7 and 0.3 for mid and expo, but whatever. We're gonna save it now. All right, and it's been saved. All right, and let's fly it. Arming in 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was right into my fucking finger. God damn it. All right, let's see. So this is a linear throttle response right now. And what you might come to find out is I'm a damn good pilot regardless. Wait, why does this fly so good? It's having no time flying. Okay, but I mean, my original point was going to be that with the throttle response being linear, it's very difficult to make precise movements like stay hovering at a certain level. But I guess it depends on the weight of the drone, because this is doing just fine with it being linear. Now let me just make sure that it's linear. And we'll go into the rate. Throttle Expo, yeah, I mean, there's no Expo or anything, and it flies pretty good. And this is a little bit heavier drone. Interesting, actually. This video might be different. Maybe it'll be something about why throttle response matters. Your hover point should be around 50% throttle response, or like your stick travel should be at around 50% while you're hovering around. But let's switch goggles and see what happens. Now the thing with this one is it's 23,000 kV, while these are the FPV vegan motors at 25,000 kV. So let's see how this one goes. All right, sorry, now it's linear. Now let's fly it. So here we go. We're gonna arm in 3, 2, 1. Okay, right into my fucking hand again. God damn it, piece of shit. All right, so now, with this one being at 50%, I mean, with this being a linear throttle response, notice how I'm not really keeping the drone at 50% stick. And I also have to make a ton of tiny, tiny micro adjustments with the stick in order to, I have to make a ton of tiny little micro adjustments with the throttle response in order for me to keep it level, or, hovering. And that's going to be a lot harder to control overall for beginners. And the reason why is because of the micro adjustments. Why do you need to do micro adjustments? Is because as an experienced pilot, I know kind of how to respond a little quicker to changes in horizon or altitude, horizontal altitude, I don't know, right? But I can't necessarily respond fast enough if I'm a beginner. You know, if I'm a beginner, it's going to be much more difficult too. And that is why having some mid and expo is going to help out. Now you want to set your midpoint to somewhere where 50% is throttle. So let's say you've got a completely linear throttle and you want to get to finding your rates or your a good throttle rate. How do we go from, okay, we don't like linear. How do we, I mean, because I guess it works for some drones, but if linear throttle response doesn't really work for you, then how do we get to a throttle response that is much more controllable for gaps and controlling at altitude and such? Because you see that? See how I have to kind of bob and weave and time it? That takes a lot of time and experience, okay? And if you're a beginner, that's going to be really not the funnest thing to do. You're going to end up crashing all the time and breaking a lot of different things. But with some mid and expo, you can improve that. And whenever you do need to go back to linear throttle response, by then it will be kind of intuitive. All right, so let's land that. Stop the recording. So how do we figure out our rates, okay, for throttle? The way I like to think about it is this. There is two numbers that you really have to deal with. Now, throttle limit, I don't really deal with because it's tiny whoops. And, you know, having your throttle limit at 100, I feel like that is much more kind of what Joshua Bardwell was trying to say when he was answering that question, which is that, you know, I think with having the throttle limit at 100, although you expand the kind of controllable altitude, you know, within your stick range, you kind of control that. With it at 100, you have access to all of the motor. So it's almost like you're limiting access and power. So your throttle, I couldn't do the tricks the same way with the throttle limit not being at 100. So I kept it at 100. But my thing with the mid and expo, so that's the two variables that I'm talking about here. Okay, I'm ignoring throttle limit and, you know, whatever the type of response, you know, scale or whatever. I keep it off and I keep it at 100. But the mid and the expo, that is what matters. And mid is basically, the way I like to think about it is the quickest way for you to find your numbers or your rates is to do the following. Number one, you're gonna need to play with the linear throttle first. Our throttle mid is gonna be kind of somewhere a little bit less than what the throttle, what the hover point was while you were flying around with linear rates. So if we look back around the footage, it's gonna sit at around 40 to 45 to 50. Let's run one more test where I can kind of demonstrate this much better. You're gonna wanna slowly increase your throttle until you start to take off. So I was taking off at around 35. So it's around 40 really. So around 40 is the midpoint. That's what we're gonna do first. All right, now I've got it at 0.4 midpoint, okay, which was the midpoint of the drone while it was, which was the hover point of the drone while it was had linear rates. So, and here we go. So, and now with it at 40, you'll notice that the actual hover point, the new hover point, is at 50% stick throttle response. All right. Now you can see how you like flying around with that, but look at that. It's very sensitive because there's no expo. Okay, there's no expo at all. So the drone is very, very sensitive in terms of throttle response. So because the drone is so sensitive with throttle response, what ends up happening is gaps, you start to do this more. But we've got the hover point at around 50% stick throttle, right? Stick response. The Expo is basically how much curve you give to your throttle, right? It's how much curve you give to it. So if you put it all out on a number and you graph it, I mean on a graph, and then you graph it and you display the line, it's going to be a straight line at 0. But the more expo you give, the more that the middle point of that line flattens out and you get a curve. What that allows is, as you fly and as you move this stick around, it's going to go like to a middle point and then to the maximum point, right? So it's kind of like, and then the middle right here turns into the meat of it. So what ends up happening at that point is I'd like to keep it at around 0.25. Actually, let's do a 30. I like to keep it at 30. So you'll notice that it's actually a lot easier to keep it stable mid-air with higher expo. Okay, now I'm not going to text maximum expo, although I am curious about it. But I mean, this isn't an experiment video. This is how I found my throttle rates. So I mean, that is kind of the idea. We just found it, mid and expo. Mid is you find the hover point and you set whatever your stick kind of throttle response, throttle rating. Make sure it's on the OSD too. But yeah, as you fly, you fucking kind of pinpoint the number, and it was around 40 for this drone. And then bam, put that in. And the expo, I keep it at 0.3. You should just start at 0.3 and see how you like it. But you'll notice a difference while flying. And the difference is going to be in the meat of it, in the meat. And when I say the meat, that's the exact prime zone where the throttle is. That's where you kind of tune the fine-tune adjustments while you fly. You know, that's kind of how you make those tiny gaps. Now look at it. Just to keep the drone stable, I'm sitting right at around 50% throttle. And I don't have to, the meat is much more easy to tune. It's very easy to find, you know? You saw that little cool trippy for like a half second? See, you can do stuff like that now. See what I'm saying? And so because of that, I got much better as a pilot because of this throttle shits. Once you find those numbers, man, simulators become a lot easier. It becomes a whole different experience, you know, once you find that expo number. See what I'm saying? Because once you find that, you're going to be a good pilot, essentially. That's my video. We've got a dad and daughter walking up on me on the park, so can't really record for too long, but that's going to be the reason why you want to use Expo and set a midpoint with your throttle, okay? Beta flights, you know, defaults are good, and keeping a linear, you know, throttle response rating is useful, and I see some utility in that. All I know is if you're a freestyle pilot like me and you like flying a drone around like me, then the number one step is setting that throttle response rating, okay? And you know, with your rates, there's thousands of videos on rates. Maybe I'll make a video on rates if you guys want me to, but that's the video on throttle response. Meps King is sending some motors to me, so I mean, hopefully the next video I make, it's going to be with the new Ascent system. Chinese New Year's is over, so hopefully them motherfuckers in the mainland can send some shit over here. But all right, thanks for watching. Next time, guys, bye.